Hello everyone, Chelsea here. It is a special Wednesday edition of Multifaceted today. Wasn't able to make it on Monday. Had a little one that wasn't feeling well and that ended up staying home from daycare. One of the beauties of being your own boss, just change your schedule, shift things around. We had a lovely couple of days together. Thank goodness she's feeling better. It was nothing serious. And she's quickly on the mend. So, how are you doing today? Hope you're having a fabulous day. If you're in this part of the world, or in many parts of the world where we're having a little bit of a heat wave, I hope that you're coping well, you're keeping cool, you're handling it, just finding creative ways to keep yourself from getting too hot. I know there's just a really intense heat wave over here where we are, and it's not necessarily something in this part of Canada that we're as used to. There's some record temperatures happening in Alberta and BC, and yeah, it's hot. So, just we're adapting and doing what we need to do. And yeah, I mean, it's wonderful that it's summer, it's beautiful, and I just think about how we have such short summers here, and it's usually, so much of the year snowing. So no matter what, I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for this heat. I'm just finding ways to stay hydrated and cool. So make sure you're drinking lots of water. So today, Multifaceted, maybe a little bit fitting, because we're talking about how our challenges shape us. So how the things that go down in our lives, the things that happen, especially the things that happen unexpectedly, that catch us by surprise, that catch us off guard, the things that really can knock us off of our feet in our lives, how we can be impacted and shaped by those, often for the better, how it can help us to uncover strengths and gifts that we didn't know that we had before. So we can go through some of the most difficult moments of our lives, and we can come back, or we can come through the other side stronger than ever, more powerful than ever, wiser than we were before, and with gifts that we didn't have before. And that is essentially the essence of what the Comeback Queen is all about. And it's been going through my own challenges and the experiences through that's shaped who I am, and it's shaped the work that I do now. And it's a big part of Multifaceted, which is what we're doing here today, what we're talking about, and why this whole live series came to be. So Multifaceted, this is, I believe, my 4th episode. Very, very excited, and thank you for watching. Multifaceted is a live video series that explores our multidimensionality as humans, but also the multidimensionality of the work, this coaching work that can be done to support us through our challenges, through our setbacks, through our comebacks. And I'm really excited about this topic today because it really is at the heart of what I believe, about the human spirit, the strength of who we are, and how, especially with our mindset and our perspective and the way that we see what's going on, how we can take the good from even the most difficult moments in our lives, and we can use that strength that comes with it to catapult us beyond where we've ever been in our lives. It can often allow us to have the drive to finally strive to be the best possible versions of ourselves. Whereas if we went through life and didn't have any challenges, if things were always really easy and simple, we wouldn't have as much motivation to push ourselves, to strive, to grow, to uncover strengths that we didn't know we had, to really go beyond our comfort zone and to really take, some of the risks that we can maybe be afraid of taking because they're outside of our comfort zone. So this is going to be an exploration of that. And it's something that I think is very timely. Again, I mentioned, for those of us that are in this part of the world, we're going through extreme temperatures. You could definitely look at that as a challenge. It brings up all sorts of, health factors. There's so many things that we take for granted that, even the area in our home that we sleep, how we keep ourselves cool, all of these things are being raised, and it's things that, we don't normally have to think about on a day-to-day basis. You also take a look at, how this last year and a half has been for all of us in the world. And of course, depending on what part of the world we live in and what our resources are, it's definitely impacted us at different levels, but it's been a challenge. And so one thing to just start to think about as we open up this whole conversation about how our challenges shape us is to start to think about how this last year and a half has shaped you. What gifts have come out of it? What changes within the core of who you are, within how you see the world, within how you operate, within how you view your life? What's shifted there? I think we've all been able to come face to face with the preciousness of life through this major global challenge that we've all been going through. And I think that it's really changed the way that we prioritize things, what we see as important in our lives, what we take seriously compared to maybe what we used to really, take seriously that doesn't really matter anymore. So that's one thing to just kind of get started with as we talk about this. And I know for me personally, some of the previous challenges that I experienced in the last couple of years of my life fully prepared me for what this whole experience has been. And I think one of the biggest things that came out of that, some of the hardest things that I've been through in my life, what they really taught me is perspective. It really taught me what is truly important, what not to dwell on, what not to get myself all worried about. And, again, it's helped me discover my strengths. A couple of years ago, around the time that I was getting ready for my youngest baby to be born, it was one of the most difficult challenges in my life that I've ever been through. I was completely alone, had isolated myself from my family, didn't have the same support system that I had a very sudden loss of my baby's father. I was completely on my own. I had a job, and then all of a sudden I got very, very sick. I couldn't work. My bills had doubled, and I had no idea how I was going to survive. And it takes time of course, we're very fortunate in this part of the world to have supports when things like that happen, but it takes time for that to kick in. And of course, to be that severely ill, ended up having to be hospitalized 4 times for dehydration. Very fortunate to have some close friends that, brought me to the hospital and took me in and sat with me when I needed to go into the emergency room. So, it was a very, very challenging time. And again, one of the biggest things that happens when we go through challenges is we face a lot of uncertainty. Thank you, John. There's a lot of uncertainty that comes up when we're facing a big challenge like that. And it really does force us to be so in the moment. You know, we're not worried so much about the past or the future. We get into this state of just being really hyper aware of what our immediate circumstances are. You know, we can almost go into survival mode. Our bodies are designed to be able to handle, you know, intense things that happen in the moment. But then I think the most beautiful part about it is that when we're tested like that, we see strengths within us that we didn't know that we had before. You know, so in that moment, about 4 years ago, 4.5, I guess, I had to be really creative with, you know, resources, with even how I looked after myself, all of those things. And again, it was the mindset that I had. It wasn't about, you know, why is this happening to me? It wasn't about, you know, anger towards my family, even though that we were estranged. It really was one of the biggest faith building experiences in my life, because, you know, I never really was alone. Like, I was estranged from my family, but beautiful supports came in. You know, just at the right time, the right people. And I realized that, this is another important thing when we go through challenges, is that I wasn't meant to be alone. You know, we're not meant to be alone. We're not meant to isolate ourselves. We're not meant to do it all on our own. And it's important. It was very humbling for me. You know, I was eating from the food bank. I was, you know, I had at one point had the Red Cross supporting me. There was all sorts of things. Ended up getting connected with a really beautiful organization called the Pregnancy Care Center. And the women there were such an incredible support and resource. So I think that's one of the other things to remind ourselves, you know, how interdependent we are, and how, you know, with faith and with really accepting that you're not meant to do this on your own, with an open heart and an open mind to reach out and connect to all of the incredible human beings that are out there. That's one of the more beautiful things that comes out of difficult moments, out of difficult times. Just want to read your comment, April. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I agree, we upgrade through our challenges. Resilience requires stretching to a near breaking point. Continue opening your heart and allow it to heal. Thank you so much. Thank you, John. So, you know, we all go through these difficult challenges at certain stages in our lives. You know, and often they can be unexpected. Sometimes they can be a really big wake-up call. You know, again, going back to my particular story, you know, the series of events that caused me to be completely estranged and cut off from my family, that was a lot of pride on my own part. It was a lot of judgment. It was a lot of fear. There was a lot of blame. You know, there were a lot of things that I really needed to take accountability for within myself. And again, that was another reason why I was looking back a little bit more, very grateful for that difficult time that I went through, because not long after the worst of that, I was reconnected with my family. And then, you know, I was able to receive support from them as well. But that took me really going within and getting real about what I was doing. That was a huge, huge shift for me. because in the early part of my life, I played the victim, and a lot of us can do that, right? I was blaming everybody else and not taking responsibility for the choices that I had made and the path that led me to being pregnant and alone and so sick that I couldn't get out of bed. All of those things. You know, that there was a sequence of choices. Obviously, that didn't just happen to me. And so it was just a really powerful time. You know, when I mentioned faith, that was a very powerful time where I reconnected to my faith as well. And that's something that, you know, in the darkest moments, when I was really scared, it got me through. You know, whether I was talking out loud, asking for, you know, some sort of resolution, some sort of glimmer of hope, some sort of answers, you know, resources, a way out of this. And again, one of the things, and I resisted this at the beginning, but, you know, morning sickness, you know, there's usually a medication that a lot of women take, and the kind that I had, that medication wouldn't touch it. And I was so grateful for, you know, this very particular medication that it's an off-label thing that they were using. It was intentionally used for cancer patients going through chemotherapy when they were severely ill. And this medication was a lifesaver for me. You know, it was like a light switch going off. This medication was very expensive. And of course, as I had mentioned, I was struggling financially. And so grateful, you know, I had stayed in touch with my previous employers, and they were willing and so kind to extend my health benefits so that I was able to afford this medication that was, you know, would allow me to then be able to eat and be able to, you know, put on the weight that you need to when you're having a baby, right? So again, so grateful for these miracles that happened. And I think that really believing that, you know, anything is possible, that there can be answers, that there can be resources. Just really having that hope and that faith. And again, this was the time that got me through, I believe, this last year very easily. You know, just really being aware of how precious life is, how things can change in an instant, how, you know, we really do only have, you know, our mindset and our perspective, our spirit, you know, our hope. That's out of all of the things that we have, you know, all of our possessions, all of those things, that's the only thing that we really truly own. And having that spirit and that faith and that trust, I mean, it got me through it got me through that incredible time, and it got me through this last year and a half. And so, you know, I just, as you're listening to this, you know, I'm sure that you're connecting to moments in your life where you were challenged. Maybe right now you're still going through it, you know, whatever it is that you have been through or what you are going through. You know, some of the key reminders that I want to share here is, again, not letting yourself be isolated. You know, really looking at your faith, your hope, focusing on love over fear. You know, connecting to those around you, sharing your story, you know, not going it alone, realizing that powerful gifts are being given to you through these difficult times. There's incredible gifts within the challenges that we go through. So, as you're watching, as you're listening, if you feel called to, to share what you've received through some of your biggest challenges, what wisdoms, what hope, what faith, I'd love to hear about them from you. And again, just a reminder, if you are going through something right now, the most important thing is that you're not going through it alone. And then, as you have the opportunity to go through your own comeback, how you can start to take the wisdom and the gifts and the diamonds, the gems that you received through these difficult experiences, and how you can transform them into something good. One of the most beautiful things about the coaching industry that I love so much is this pattern of those of us that have gone through specific challenges. We know them inside and out. We know them better than anyone, whether it's separation and divorce, whether it's a health crisis, whether it's an accident, whether it's a financial crisis, whether it's relationship difficulties, love addictions, challenges with starting a business, whatever those things are. And those of us that have gone through the challenges, that have overcome the difficult things, we become the experts in these challenges. And that's one thing that's quite beautiful to see within the coaching industry, is those that have recovered through these difficult things go on to teach and support others through those exact things. So you have the opportunity to be coached by someone who knows exactly what you're going through. They didn't just read about it in a book or learn about it in school. They have the true wisdom and experience of what it is that you're going through. And again, that's the heart of what this Comeback Queen is all about. The programs that I create, the free community that I offer, all of these things, these all come from and are born out of my own experiences. And the strength that I received, and I now have the privilege to share them with my clients. And so it's also something to consider, if you're going through. I think one of the biggest challenges that I faced, aside from the one I shared about earlier, was to get through intense, 4-year program that I really thought I wanted to be. I wanted to be a naturopath. I traveled to the US. I went into incredible debt to become a naturopath, only to find out I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't something that I liked. I felt very confined and very overwhelmed by the thought that this was going to be my career path for the next couple of decades. And it was this terrifying thing to admit that this isn't what I want to do. But the beautiful thing that came out of it, there were incredible things that came out of it that I, of course, use in my coaching business. I mean, my ability to work with my clients, all of that, I had already received all of that experience. I just needed to shift the way that I expressed myself in my career. And again, so grateful for this coaching industry where I could, take what I desired to teach, and I can show up and I can, do my branding and be creative, work online, and I can support others that are going through their own comeback. So it's just an incredible process, this whole coaching industry, where we can really build our lives from helping others through what we've been through. But there was another challenge with that. Another challenge that I faced with getting myself out here. I've talked about this before and in some of the other lives that I've done. Another challenge that I faced was my ability to actually show up and express myself on a video like this, on a live, without shaking in my boots and without being so terrified. You know, when I do these videos, these multifaceted videos, I don't always really know what I'm gonna say. I have a topic in mind and I press record, and there's this huge leap of faith that what I'm going to say, what I'm going to share is going to be of value. And to be able to get to this point, to be able to do that, that took a lot of healing. That was another challenge that I had to overcome in order to be able to do what I felt was my purpose. I went through, you know, quite a while of that big conflict of how do I actually share this message that is so important to me when I'm terrified to share it? How do I get clients? How do I put myself out there when this is the last thing that I want to do? But it was a leap of faith, and it was, you know, something that took practice. It took just going for it, just doing it. And one of the beautiful things I was talking about this particular experience with a colleague the other day is that for the longest time I avoided it. You know, I avoided promoting myself. I avoided coming on and doing lives. And it wasn't until I finally gave myself that final push, and I gave myself this challenge, and I gave myself this, you know, ability to commit to what it is that was so dearly important to me, you know, at pushing through my comfort zone, getting to the other side of it, I finally got clarity on what it was that I was avoiding in the first place. And I never would have received that clarity if I had avoided it. So that's one thing to really consider, you know, if you're feeling stuck in a particular area of your life. Think about what you're avoiding, and think about how you can take maybe some baby steps, or how you can, you know, start to slowly immerse yourself into that experience, you know, facing the fear, because you'll gain incredible wisdom and guidance from this. I didn't realize until I started doing this how hard on myself I was being, you know? And it wasn't until I was actually able to see it that I could heal that I could actually work on that particular mindset. Because at first, I was hard on myself for not going live. And then when I started going live, I was hard on myself for not doing it good enough, you know, for not being immediately good at something. And that was eye-opening for me. And as soon as I was aware of that, as soon as I realized that, and I caught it, I was able to make that mindset shift, and that shift in that negative thinking, and to actually congratulate myself and celebrate myself for doing the hard thing. And so it's something for you to think about as well. You know, noticing the mindset, noticing the thoughts, the things you're telling yourself, how you're being hard on yourself, and starting to shift that, because you have absolute power over the thoughts that you think. I mean, thoughts are habitual. If you don't notice it, if you aren't fully aware of it, they're just going to run like a tape in the background. But you can shift. You can create new habits, new thoughts that are loving, empowering, and encouraging, and that celebrate you, and that remind you to love yourself and be proud of yourself when you're doing things that are hard. And that'll keep you going. You know, you can, through all of this, learn to become your biggest cheerleader, your best friend, your backer, like the person that is always there for you. And so I just took you through a mini tour of some of my biggest challenges and how they've shaped me. I'd love to hear about yours, you know, whether you want to share them in the comments or whether you want to reach out to me and tell me your story. I love meeting people, hearing their stories. The comeback is the thing that inspires me the most. And that's what I'm here for. So I would love to hear your takeaways from this whole conversation. Your, you know, areas that maybe you learned something, areas that you were inspired, and how you can take the strengths and the gifts from your own challenges, you know, and how you can start to take those and create a force for you moving forward into the best possible version of yourself, so that you can show up, so we can receive, you know, when we can see you for the gifts that you are here to offer. So thank you so much for being a part of Multifaceted today. This has been my favorite episode by far, so far. I have, you know, more and more weeks of content coming up. If there's anything that you want me to talk about on this live program, let me know. But this is a conversation that can go on and on, all about how multifaceted and multidimensional we are as humans, and how this work has so many multifacets and dimensions as well, and supporting us to really connect to the highest and best possible version of us. So I will be back again next week on Monday, 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Excited to see you there, and thank you so much for watching. Mwah.